In this video today, I'm going to speak about some of the positive aspects of sports science. So I know in my previous video, I spoke about some of the more darker negative sides, and I would like to give a more balanced discussion of the pros and cons of the industry. So these are the areas I'm going to speak about. I'll start off with, for me personally, meeting your heroes. And being from Leicester, I was a big rugby union fan, big football fan. So a big Leicester Tigers fan. Used to go down Welford Road as a kid, watching players like this. And then to graduate and have a year, have a season with the club, with the first team, in the gym as an S&C intern was an amazing experience, not just professionally, but personally to be involved with such a massive club that you'd been to so many games as a kid. To actually be there day to day and be a part of the club was something you can't buy. And as well as rugby, big football fan, followed Leicester City as a kid at Wembley, had a season ticket at their old stadium, Filbert Street, for years when I was a little kid. And luckily, during my master's at Nottingham Trent, I needed to find a football club to go and collect some data. And eventually, after a few clubs turned my options down, Leicester City gave me an opportunity to go into the academy and got to collect some data there for a few weeks. I was in and out of the club, and from the under nines up to the 23s. So that did involve working with some good players at the time who have gone to have great careers. And yeah, it was an amazing experience to be involved with that. But it was 2016, so at the time, even better to be a Leicester fan. It's obviously the year that Leicester won the league, and they shared facilities, the first team, with the academy. So whilst I had zero involvement, had nothing to do with the first team, but just to be around the team and see what was going on was a very unique experience. So to be sat having your lunch and we had Mahrez at the next table, you're walking down the corridor and Kante comes past you. Amazing experience just to be there and see it. Even though I had no involvement, but just to see the team and to cap it off, they win the league and I'm somewhere in that picture about 6 rows from the stage. Um, just an amazing year in my life, and part of that was being able to go into the club. So that was thanks to sports science. Secondly, the ability to travel and have a unique experience, which kind of relates to number one a little bit. For me, um, didn't go on big holidays as a kid. It's not something I think about. It's fine, but it's not something I was used to. So then to have the opportunity, thanks to sports science, thanks to going to university, to then travel, go to Australia, be given money to go and do it. It's not even coming out of your own pocket. To study during my PhD and go to Sydney, amazing experience, amazing facilities, but the lifestyle as well. You can go out of the office and I go and have a coffee, take my work down, and this would be my view a couple of times a week. So just the ability to go and see different countries, different cultures, which I never would have done without sports science. And that came from the early days, though. I wouldn't have got those opportunities if I hadn't have grafted from undergraduate at Hull and my master's in Nottingham, which is something I'll talk about at the end very briefly as well. But then the bulk of my PhD was in Germany, and it involved a lot of applied work with professional players and very unique opportunities. So to go to TSG Hoffenheim to use their equipment personally was a really fun, unique experience, but more importantly, there to use on the players, great experience. And then, like I've said, meeting players, having conversations what you'd never have. So meeting Andre Schürrle, talking about the World Cup, asking him how he felt when he was on the pitch and Steven Gerrard fell over. Um, Oliver Bierhoff chatting to him very briefly about when England got knocked out of Euro 96. You've got taking Jadon Sancho's blood, trying to get Aubameyang to move to Leicester and play up front with Vardy. All these little things. Going to Belgium, meeting Nigel Pearson at a conference, academic conference, and then being very fortunate to be in his company for a short while, have a few beers and talk about football, which I think to everyone else I just mentioned, probably they don't remember any of it. It doesn't really mean anything to them, understandably. But for me, these are very unique experiences, which, again, without sports science wouldn't have happened. And that comes from hard work. Previous video I spoke about starting off at lower levels, working at recreational teams. Those are the things that I did, and all those experiences I've just mentioned wouldn't have happened without those earlier experiences. Finally, this is the biggest thing for me. It's nice to have those sort of stories before about the big names that you're lucky to meet or sometimes work with as well. But for me, just having a more comfortable living, that's the reason I started working hard to go for a career in sports science. As when I was 18, 19, I was doing my college course in Coventry, and my overriding memories were just being in this building pretty much every day or any sort of hour they'd let me in to do work. So I was so desperate to get out of my life. My memories away from college were just not doing very much. It was doing the food shop, £20 budget a week. Most weeks you're paying with 10p's, 20p's, 5p's. There wasn't a lot of money floating around at the time, the way I grew up. And, briefly coming back to the darker side, it was a hard time at 18, 19. There wasn't much money in the house coming in. And there wasn't much food on the table. So I remember just having a lot of headaches back then. I thought there was a real big problem there, but just the fact I wasn't really eating very well. Running out of electricity, the hot water would go, the gas would go, someone would knock your door because you owe money. It's not a very nice way to live your life. And just the basics. There could be undergrads watching this thinking, well, this has never been a problem for me. But for me, it was. During the college course, there'd be trips. Half the time I wouldn't go because I couldn't afford it. And you're too embarrassed to say you were poor or you didn't have the money for something that cost maybe 30 quid. But back then, 30 quid was huge money. Maybe, again, it might sound silly to some people, but for me, that was a big deal. And I made sacrifices. Sometimes I could have brought that on myself at times. Maybe I spent money on kit and S&C equipment where I could have put a bit of that money into food or the basics of life. But I thought this is a long-term investment. It's going to get me somewhere I want to be in the future. So I did have a sense of mind at 18, 19. If I got an extra few quid here or there, I put it in the right places. But that's not to say now I'm a lecturer. There's loads of big money. It's really flashy. Far from it, but it's just the basics. Maybe that's not a huge selling point as number three, but for me it is. It's not every t-shirt you buy is the £2 t-shirt from Primark. Not every meal you have is reduced to clear from Tesco. You go in there at 7:30. I remember it very well. That's the person coming out with a sticker at 7:30 on all the items. So just the basics. And again, it might sound a bit daft, but now if I have a Starbucks, spend 5 quid in there. If I buy a pint and it costs 6 quid, you think, wow, that was like a quarter or a third of my food budget 10 years ago. So just a little thing sometimes you buy, you pay for, you think, God, I couldn't even afford that 10 years ago. So it's a big change. So these are the positive aspects of sports science. And like I said, I want it to be a balanced argument, but education has changed my life. It has been a huge positive for me. It can be a double-edged sword at times for all the rejections and the challenges, but overall, it has had a huge positive impact on my life. And it's brought unique experiences, so many interesting times I've had in my life, people that I've met who I never thought I'd meet and even work with as well. But you have to work hard. You can't cruise through your degree, get an average grade, get nothing on the side in terms of experience or additional qualifications. Those things won't happen for you. And you have to be patient as well. I think some people expect to graduate and go straight into this amazing job, this amazing position, but it does take time. It could be a master's, it could be a PhD as well. Um, there could be these obstacles you have to go through first in order to get the career you really, really want. Okay, so that was my short video on the positive aspects of sports science. I hope it complements my previous video and gives a balanced discussion of what to expect if you go into this field long term. If you do want to ask me some questions, as usual, you've got Instagram, Sports Science Hacks, and Twitter at CJ Thompson 90. Okay, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again soon.